Let us discuss about the another part of Unit 1 under Herbal Drug Technology. So the next part is biodynamic agriculture. Good agriculture practices in cultivation of medicinal plants. It also, what we can say, describes about the general principles and provides technical details for the cultivation of medicinal plants. So let us see about the very first heading, identification or authentication of cultivated medicinal plants. Under that, the very prime step is selection of medicinal plants. The selection of species or botanical variety for cultivation should be done according to national pharmacopoeia or authoritative national documents the own country. In case of newly identified medicinal plants, the species or botanical variety selected for cultivation should be identified and documented in a traditional medicine of the original country. So the next aspect is botanical identity. The detailed botanical description like scientific name, subspecies, variety, author and family of each medicinal plant under cultivation should be verified and recorded. Specimens. In the case of first registration in a producer's country, a voucher botanical specimen should be submitted to a regional or national herbarium for identification. Seeds and other propagation materials. The propagation or plant material should be of utmost quality and it must be free from contamination, diseases, and they must be resistant to biotic and abiotic factors. The quality of propagation material should comply with regional or national regulations. So the last one is cultivation. Cultivation of medicinal plant requires intensive care and management. Conservation agriculture techniques should be followed, especially in the buildup of organic matter and conservation of soil humidity. Conservation agriculture. So it is a farming system that prevents losses of arable land while regenerating degraded lands. It helps to promote the maintenance of soil cover permanently, minimum soil disturbance and diversification of plant species. It also enhances biodiversity and natural biological processes which contributes to increased water and nutrient use efficiency and sustained crop production. The three principles of conservation agriculture is minimum tillage and soil disturbance, permanent soil cover with crop residues and live mulches, crop rotation and intercropping. Permanent soil cover with crop residues and about live mulches. So let us talk about crop rotation. Means that different crops are altered in the same field. For instance, cereals cultivation, maize and wheat followed by the legumes. So when we talk about advantages of crop rotations and intercroppings, it improves the usage of water as the crops with different rooting systems utilize water from soil at different depths. It helps to utilize soil nutrients more efficiently. In addition to the nitrogen fixation done by the legumes in the soil for the benefit of successive cereal crops in a rotation. It also reduces the pests and occurrence of diseases as different crops are susceptible to different diseases and pest agents. Therefore, growing such crops in rotation will reduce the incidence of disease and pest with no cost. The need for conservation agriculture has many advantages like sustainability, enhanced biodiversity, labor savings, healthier soils, increased yields, and cost effective. Let us talk about site selection. Medicinal plant materials derived from the same species can show significant differences in quality when cultivated at different sites as soil, temperature, climate and other factors. Hence, these environmental variations must be considered for cultivating the medicinal plant. And the next one is ecological environment and social impact. The introduction of non-indigenous medicinal plant species into cultivation will have a detrimental impact on the biological and ecological balance of the region. The ecological impact of cultivation activities should be monitored over time where practical. The social impact of cultivation on local communities should be examined to ensure that negative impacts on local livelihoods are avoided. The next one is climate. Private knowledge must be considered about climatic conditions as duration of sunlight, average rainfall, average temperature, including daytime and nighttime temperature differences influences the physiological and biochemical activities of plants. So the next parameter about the soil. To ensure optimal growth of medicinal plant with utmost quality, the soil should contain appropriate amounts of nutrients, organic matter and other elements. The organic and chemical fertilizers were used to obtain large yields of medicinal plants. And the next one is irrigation and drainage. Irrigation and drainage should be controlled in accordance with the needs of the individual medicinal plant species during its various stages of growth. Water used for irrigation purpose should comply with the local, regional and national quality standard. So the next parameter is plant maintenance and protection. Measures such as stopping, bud nipping, pruning and shading may be used at specific time to control the growth of development of plant, which improves the quality and quantity of the medicinal plant material being produced. Pesticides and herbicides should be applied at the minimum effective level. The application of herbicide and pesticide should be carried out by qualified staff. Harvestation of medicinal plants must be carried out at optimal season or time period to ensure the quality of production of medicinal plant materials and finished herbal products. The time of harvest is available in National Pharmacopoeia, published standards and official monograph. The concentration of biologically active constituents varies with the stage of plant growth and development. Hence, the best time for harvest should be determined according to the quality and quantity of biologically active constituents. Cutting devices, harvesters and other machines and all containers used to harvest should be kept clean and to reduce contamination from social and other materials. Decomposed medicinal plant materials should be identified and discarded during harvest. Post-harvest inspections and processing have to be carried out to avoid microbial contamination and loss of product quality. The last one is regarding personnel. All personnel involved in the propagation, cultivation, harvest and post-harvesting processing stages of medicinal plant production should maintain appropriate personal hygiene and should have received training regarding their hygiene responsibilities. Good collection and practices for medicinal plants. So permission to collect. Prior collection of medicinal plants from wild, permission from government authorities, landowners must be obtained. National legislation such as national red list should be consulted. So the first aspect is regarding technical planning. Prior initiating a collection process, the geographical distribution, population density, essential information of medicinal plants like taxonomy, distribution, phenology, genetic environmental conditions topography, geology, soil, climate and vegetation at collection sites is very important. The transportation should be rapid, safe and dependable transportation to carry personal equipment, supplies and collected medicinal plant materials should be arranged in advance. Training of personnel should be done regularly. So the next parameter is selection of medicinal plants for collection. The botanical variety selected for collection should be the same as that specified in the National Pharmacopoeia or recommended by other authoritative concerned national documents. So the next one is regarding collection. Medicinal plant material should be collected at appropriate season or time period due to the quantitative concentration of biologically active constituents varies with the stage of plant growth and development. Hence, the following criteria has to be followed during collection of medicinal plants. The best time for collection should be determined so that the medicinal plant contains quality and quantity of biologically active constituents than the total vegetative yield. Ecologically non-destructive systems of collection should be employed. For example, like in the case of roots, the main roots should not be cut or dug up. Only some of the lateral roots should be located and collected. Likewise, the field personnel should have adequate botanical training and able to recognize the medicinal plant material by their common names and ideally by their scientific names also. The collector should have adequate knowledge of the species targeted for collection and be able to have to distinguish target species from botanically related or morphologically similar species. Appropriate protective clothing, including gloves, should be worn whenever necessary. And when we talk about post harvesting processing, regarding inspection and sorting, raw material, plant material should be visually inspected for cross contamination. Presence of foreign matter, organoleptic evaluation prior to primary processing has to be done. All processed medicinal plant material should be protected from contamination and decomposition as well as from press. The medicinal plant materials are subjected for drying under direct sunlight or open air, or placed in thin layers on drying frames or wine screen rooms in order to keep the moisture content low to reduce damage from mold and other microbial infestation. The drying conditions, all the drying conditions should be recorded properly. The processing facilities should be ensured, like location should be free from objectionable odors. Buildings should be designed to provide adequate workspace, facilitates efficient and hygienic operations. Windows and other openings should be constructed so as to avoid accumulation of dirt, and it should be fitted with insect proof screens. Water supply should be available with appropriate facilities. Affluent and waste disposal should be maintained in good order and repair. And adequate, suitable, convenient, located changing facilities and toilets should be provided, and toilets should be maintained neatly, and it should be ensured that the toilets are hygienic removal of waste matter. So adequate and conveniently located facilities should be there, especially for hand washing, and a hygienic means of drying should be provided whenever the process demands. Adequate ventilation should be provided in order to prevent excessive heat, steam, condensation, and dust to remove contaminated air. Facilities should be provided for storage of waste and unusable materials prior to the removal from the premises. Processed medicinal plant material should be packaged in clean, dry boxes, sacks, bags, and other containers. Materials used for packing should be non-polluting, clean, dry, and in undamaged conditions. And whatever the fragile matters have to be packed in rigid containers. A label should be affixed for the packing, and the label should contain a detailed information about the scientific name of the plant, what plant part, what is the place of origin, where it is cultivated, how cultivated, collection date, and the names of the grower and collector, processor, and quantitative information have to be included in the label. So the next aspect is about storage and transportation. Whatever the fresh medicinal plants have to be stored at appropriately low temperatures. Ideally, it should be from 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, and the frozen product should be stored at least then less than minus 20 degrees Celsius. According to FAO, organic farming is defined as organic agriculture is a unique production management system which especially enhances the agro ecosystem health, where all the synthetic or farm inputs have to be avoided. So let us discuss about the organic farming. Um, so here are the four principles. According to FAO, organic farming, as we said earlier, it is defined as organic culture is a unique production management system which promotes, enhances ecosystem health and accomplished farm agronomic, biological, and mechanical methods in exclusion of all synthetic or farming foods. So let us discuss about one of the first principle of organic farming, about principle of health. Health is the wholeness and integrity of living systems. Healthy soils result in healthy crops that encourages the development of health of animals and people. The role of organic agriculture in farming, processing, distribution, or consumption is to sustain and enhance the health of ecosystems and organisms from the primitive life to human beings. And let us discuss about the principle of ecology. Organic agriculture should be attained ecological balance, though the design of farming systems, establishment of habitats, and maintenance of genetic and agricultural diversity. It states that the production is to be based on ecological processes. Organic management must be adapted to local conditions, ecology, culture, and scale. So let us discuss about the principle of fairness regarding organic agriculture. It should build on relationship that ensure fairness in regard of environment and life opportunities. It should ensure the fairness at all levels and to all parties, traders and consumers. Natural and environmental should be managed socially and ecologically and should be held in trust for future generations. Fairness requires systems of production, distribution, and trade that are open and equitable and account for real life environmental and social costs. Now, the last one under principles of organic farming is principle of care. Organic agriculture should be managed to protect the health and well environment. Organic agriculture is a living and dynamic system that responds to internal and external demands and conditions. This principle states that precaution and responsibility are the key incomes or concerns in agriculture. So let us discuss about priorly what will be the disadvantages of organic farming. Lower productivity, required skilled labor, time consuming process and requirement of more intensive labor have to be needed. So if we are going to discuss about the advantages after overcoming all the disadvantages in organic farming, so the after the organic farming all the products will have high nutritional value of food and they will be poison free and the food will be very tasty, whereas the cultivation cost is very low and we can enhance the soil nourishment and there will be less water pollution and it is an eco-friendly, so we can say environmental friendly practice and it is a source for productive labor. So let us see about pest and pest management in medicinal plants. So as we know, pesticide is the substance or mixture of substance used to prevent, destroy or control pests like insects, fungus, rodents or unwanted species of plants which causes harm during production and storage of crops of medicinal plants. So these are based upon its origin. So these pesticides are classified into organic sources like examples are citronella oil, tea, and as apart from organic sources, they are divided into two important categories: natural and synthetics. So whereas we can see some of the examples under synthetics: pyrethroids, organophosphates, and carbamates. So based upon inorganic sources like Bordax mixture and malachite are the best examples. Coming for biological origin, so pyrethrin, the chemical constituent of chrysanthemum species. So pyrethrin, so the pesticides are even classified based upon the targeted pest species. If the pests are mites, so we will classify it as acaricides. If it is algae, algaecides, birds, avicides, bacteria, bactericides, fungi, fungicides, and weeds, herbicides, insects, insecticides, larvae, larvicides, snail, molluscicides, nematodes, nematicides. So these are the few chemical examples we are going to use against the targeted pest species. So let us discuss about what is biological pesticide and chemical pesticides. So obviously biological pesticides will have a very good advantages over the chemical pesticides because the continuous use of chemical pesticides will what we can say, we are not going to preserve the soil nature as such for the future generations. And even the product will be may result in the carcinogenic effect when the human consumes it. So that is why there will be a lot of advantages when we are going for opting biological pesticides. Here we are going to compare these two parameters. As concerned with the biological pesticides, they are very host specific as they act on the target pests and strongly related organisms, whereas chemical pesticides are non-specific and they will act as total large group of non-target organisms even. Biological pesticides are eco-friendly, so as they are very less toxic and ease of decomposition and they are very effective in small quantity as well. So whereas these chemical pesticides may cause environmental pollutions because of their toxic nature and non-biodegradable nature. Plants are very less susceptible for genetic modifications when we are going to use some biological pesticides, whereas plants are more susceptible for the genetic modifications when we are going to use the chemical pesticides. Let us talk about the biopesticides. So according to the source of origin, pesticides are classified into chemical pesticides or biopesticides. Chemical pesticides are further categorized into organochlorine, organophosphate, carbamate, and pyrethroids, as we have seen in the flow chart. Likewise, when we are going to talk about biopesticides, according to the United States Environmental Protection Agency, so that is, we in shortcut we are going to call it as EPA, the biopesticides are defined as certain types of pesticides derived from such natural materials as animals, plants, bacteria, and certain minerals. The advantages of biopesticides are cost effectiveness, as they are costlier but number of applications, persistence and residual effect, so there is biodegradability, less harmful on beneficial pests, less shelf life, nature of control is prevention, less prone to resistance.